Hi all, let's get started. Okay, so before this class, we gone through all. You are able to see my screen.
Yeah,
So last class we discussed about the all the kinds of the joins that we have in the SQL Server. So various joins which are helpful to pull the data or establish the data relationship between one or more table and are able to help us to get the data from one or more tables with the help of the join conditions of n number of tables and n minus 1 of conditions. There are multiple joins, as I said earlier: inner join, left join, right join, full outer join, cross join, and also we learnt about the SCD types as well, merge statement, wherein in SCD, slowly changing dimensions, we are having the merge statement, wherein to maintain the historical data, we are having a SCD types, wherein the merge statement is helpful for us to do the insert, update, delete statement together in one session with the help of the source data changes and also the slowly changing dimension data changes. Today we're gonna learn more on the what are the different types of the. First we will just learn a little bit of the alter part, how we can do the structure change in the table with already this has been explained. Just you want add a column, drop a column, or alter a column on the characters, whatever the data type that I want to do. So basically alter is the ddl command, wherein in the alter table name, and if you want to add a column, you can add a column. Say that alter table name, add one new column, which is the data type of that column varchar 40. If you run this statement, you will be able to see the new column addition into this table. Currently, if you run the sp help on this emp table, you may not be having the full name column. Let's check it out. So we are having, see, currently we don't have any full name column in that table, emp table. With the help of running this particular alter statement, I am going to add a new column, full name into, which is the varchar 40 kind of a data type. Just I am adding, so I'm able to run that. Now if I check it, full name column, I was able to see. See, full name varchar 40. Got added. So alter statement or helps to alter the any column addition or deletion, or you want to do some data type change on the columns which is there in the table, then the alter commands, which is the ddl command, helpful for us. Similarly, the full name column currently which I defined as a 40, but the requirement is such as that it is only 30 characters more than enough to have a memory for this particular column. Then I need to do the alter on the column of the data type, alter table name, and alter the column name you have to mention, and varchar 30, which is earlier varchar 40. If at all I want to change it to varchar 30, this is the syntax that you need to follow: alter table and mention the table name, and alter column, mention the column name that you want to change the data type of the column which is already having varchar 40, and then mention the data type which you want to change it for, right? So that's how the statement goes, and that's how the statement that it needs to be created. And if you see, this command is got executed, which earlier this particular column was varchar 40. Now if I go back and check it out, it is turned out to varchar 30, since I modified that particular column length of it. See, currently varchar 30 is got shown up. So this is how alter statements can be useful. And if I want to drop a column, there is always, you can drop a column. So alter table, mention the table name on which the column you are uh, planning to drop a column, then drop column is the syntax, and mention the column name that you want to drop in the emp table. So that is full name. So now I'm dropping a column which is I created just now. So I drop command, we got executed successfully. If I go back and check that particular sp help, That particular column I am not able to see because I alter the table to drop that particular column which I created. See, the last column I can see is salary. I don't see anything, any column with the name of full name. So that's how the alter command helps for you to do the any modifications with the table creation part of it. Okay. So now there is a concept of temporary tables in SQL Server. What is temporary tables? Temporary tables, see, whatever the table that you are created so far, emp, department, whatever you learned, it's all the table which are stored in the database, right? Which is the user defined database which is created by you and stored in those tables. And tomorrow if you create the table and in the database and close all your session today, close your SQL Server, everything, tomorrow you come back and open that particular data. Example, I created this emp table long back, and if I go to that particular database and try to run the select on that particular table, I'm able to see the data. See, what is the meaning of this? The whatever the table that we are creating or storing the data, it's all created on the databases itself, and it is permanent. It is not the session based kind of a tables, right? But there is a concept called there is a concept called temporary tables in SQL Server, wherein whenever you create a temporary tables, it's particularly holds that particular table schema data everything only for that particular session. If you create a table today and you access that table today and you are able to retrieve the data, but tomorrow if you come back and try to access the same table name in the same database with a new session, then that table will not be present in the SQL Server. So those are called temporary tables. What is the use of temporary tables? Temporary tables will be helpful when you are building a large set of programs in SQL Server. At that time, example, you are writing a 4 pages of the code, and each page code data, whatever the result set comes out in the each page, has to be result out with the addition of final 4 pages of the code. So each page resulting out some results, that result has to be added together to design the final result set of after 4 page of a code, right? At that point of time, developer cannot go back each time from fourth page to first page to identify what is my result set in the first page. It is quite difficult, and to maintain a certain set of a result set for a particular session and use that temporary result set in across entire code set again and again and again, which is rather than creating a new table again, getting the results and everything, better hold that result set in a temporary table and use that particular temporary table across your code multiple pages. So way in a way you can say that temporary tables are helpful to hold the particular, it's just like a cache memory, right? And if you observe anything in the cache memory, right, whenever you certain data that you insert in in a database, it will be stored in a cache memory, it will not be stored in the permanent memory. So those are all comes under temporary tables. Okay, so that's the concept of temporary tables. So there are two types of temporary tables that are present in SQL Server. One is one is the temporary tables. Another one is the global temporary tables, right? There are two types of temporary tables. One is the normal temporary table. I think the naming convention I forgot, but that is the local temporary tables. Okay. So there are two types of the temporary tables. One is the local temporary tables, and another one is the global temporary tables. The difference how you gonna identify which is the global temporary table, which is the local temporary table. If a temp always you remember any temp table that you gonna create in SQL Server, it's must and should be tagged with the ash in the beginning. Example, Now I'm creating one temporary table name as halaya. Okay, if I'm creating one table called temporary table called halaya, then the table of the name should be tagged such as create table ash halaya is the table name. That's the naming convention that you need to follow whenever you are creating any temporary table. Okay, but if you are creating any global temporary table, then the only change that is in only difference between that and this is the ash. Whatever the local temporary table always has the single ash, but global temporary tables will be having a double ash in the beginning of the table name. That's the difference between local temporary tables and global temporary tables. But in logically, what is the difference? Now you understood how you gonna create local temporary table, how you gonna create global temporary table. But what is the actual difference? We're gonna learn. But remember, the temporary tables are only holds good for the session that you are working. If the session, if you create a table, if you use that particular table in the session wise, and tomorrow or day after 1 hour after closing the session, you come back and reopen the session and try accessing the table, it will be not present, because whatever the table that you are creating, it will be there in the cache memory of the SQL server. That's it. Once you come back, it's vanish. That's it. Okay. Now learn how you gonna create the temporary table. Example: create table temporary ash temporary table, which is the local temporary table. In that temporary table, I'm creating two columns, which is one ID column, which is int integer type, and another one is the name column, which is the varchar 30 type. Let's create this table. Okay, so my table is got created, and I'm inserting the values into that temporary table. One row got affected. Okay, now if I select the temporary table data, I am able to see the temporary table data along with the ID name column, and the data will be available. Okay, so this is the window, this is the table that I'm created in this session, right? So it's the same table. Okay, now I'm connected to the my local database. I am created under this particular session. I'm able to see the data in this temporary table. Okay, now example, I will open one more new query window. Okay, and I paste the same temporary table query here. Okay, I'm connected to my local database only, but I'm just to paste the select star from as temp table, that which I created in the this session. SQL Server SQL query window 1, I'm created this temporary table. Now I am creating, sorry, same table which I created here in this session, I'm trying to access in the other window session, which I opened right now as a new window, right? See, it says that invalid object. That means you need to understand, whenever you create a temporary table, that is holds good only for that particular session, that particular window session. It never ever able to access in the other window or other sessions of the SQL Server window, SQL Server databases. Okay, so that's the understanding of local temporary table. Now the second one I told, global temporary tables, right? So I will create one more temporary table, which is the global temporary table. If you observe, right, create table, and the table name that I started with double ash, since I'm willing to create the global temporary table. The name of the table is temp underscore global is my global temporary table, which I am planning to create. And the columns that I am going to have is two columns, ID and the name, and which is the integer type and which is the name type. Okay, let's create this table. So table got created. Now insert one data into the same table. Inserted one row got affected in temp global table. Now select the data in temp global table. Correct? I am able to see the data. Okay. The same temporary table which I created in this particular session. which is the global temporary table, I am able to access the data. Let's try out the same global temporary table under same database, which is my local database. I will open another new window and try access that particular table, whether I am able to access it or not. So that's the question I have. Let's try it out. See, I am able to access. When I tried with the local temporary table, it is said that invalid object. But when I tried the global temporary table, which I created in other window, I am able to access the data. So, what is the understanding now? The understanding is when I created a local temporary table in this particular session, it is holds good only for this particular session and the window. When you created a global temporary table, you are able to access into this particular session, as well as you can access that in other session also, other new window also, till you will till you close the session which is used to create the global temporary table. I mean to say, though this is the session that I use to create the global temporary table. So till this session is opened, I am able to access in the other sessions. But when I create a global temporary table and I close this window and I'm trying to access the same table in the other window, that is not possible. If I close the SQL server, I'm not able to access the global temporary table also. Only thing is you create the temporary table, local temporary table, it can be holds good only for this particular session, this particular window. But the with the global temporary table, along with this particular window, you can access into the other window also, till the main window where you created your table is open. If you close this particular, let's see now. I will close this session, okay, which I used to create the global temporary table, right? So I closed it. Now, the other session where I am trying to access the global temporary table which I created and closed the session. Will it be able to possible to access it? No, that's the understanding. So, what you need to understand with the global, either in the global temporary table and the local temporary table is, so there are two types of a temporary table. One is local temporary table, which is always defines with the hash naming convention, wherein other global temporary tables will be always defined with the double hash significance. And the difference between the temporary, always these tables, these data stored in these tables will be stored in the cache memory, and it is always session based table access. And if you observe the local temporary table, whatever the table that you create as a local temporary table will be holds good only for that particular session. If you are creating the global temporary table, it can be accessed in the other sessions also, as long as there is one clause, as long as the session that is open which you are used to create that particular global temporary table. But if you are closing that and trying to access the another window or another session, that is also not possible. So because these tables will not be stored in the database, it is only stored in the it is only stored in the cache memories of the databases. So that's it about the temporary tables. Now, SQL Server functions. So SQL Server has the functions. What are functions? Aggregate functions, date functions, substring functions. All these are the some. There are two types of the functions that are available in SQL Server. One is built-in functions and another one is aggregate functions. Today we're gonna learn about the aggregate functions. What are the aggregate functions? As you know, more or less the aggregate functions are is kind of aggregation of group of data. That means, example, in your in your college will be having a various departments, right? electronics will be there, computer science will be there, is will be there, mechanical will be there. But as a principal of the college, I want to know each department how many students are there in particular year. If that is the case, that is the kind of aggregation that has to be done on the department based. So how the calculation will goes: count of students on each department. What are the departments? Example, computer science 50 students, electronics and communications 60 students, and information science 30 students. Something like this. Count count of students based on department. It's a kind of aggregation data that you are trying to fetch. So what are the different aggregation functions that SQL Server is currently is having? Count and sum, minimum, maximum, and all these kind of aggregate, average and minimum, maximum, sum. All these are the aggregate functions which are there in the SQL Server. Let's understand how these are currently present and how you can utilize those in your coding journey. Correct? So let's create a table called employee tp, wherein it is having the employee id, first name, last name, department id, job, salary. And on primary column would be your employee id, right? So let's create it. So table is got created, and dump the data from select star into emp tp. Whatever the data that is present in your emp table, I'm trying to dump same data into your new table that you are created, which is emp-tp, right? So I got inserted the data into emp-tp. Now I inserted few more data. Let's insert some null values into that particular table as well. So I am able to insert. Now see the data that is present in the emp-tp table, right? So this is the EMP-TP table where it is having the 7 rows of a data, and each column is having a data, but the seventh row is having the null data. Okay, so that's the whole table creation part of it. So there is a first aggregate function that we see in SQL Server is count. So count is the count is the kind of aggregate function which helps us to count the number of students or number of rows that is present in the table. So if I write a query, select count of star from emptp table, then it will give all the entire set of the count. See, it is giving us 7. That means it is giving me the it calculated the count of records that is present in emptp table. If you run, right, if you run, you will get to know. See, currently it is having 7 rows in the entire table. When I run the select count star on that particular table, it gave me 7 as the output, since it calculated the number of rows that is present in the table, and it gave you a result. So other way, if I mention instead of I am mentioned as a star, if I mention the particular column, example in this column, in this table I'm having a column called employee id, right? If I write a query such as select count of, in place of star I gave a column name employee id from table name. So if I give this particular count query, what would be the result set? So one understanding I will tell you, in SQL Server, whenever a particular table you are giving it as a count as star, then it will give you the entire row number of rows that is present in the table. But if you give a specific column name that you are counting on, example in this case I am trying to count the number of employee IDs that are present in the this particular table and this particular column. So if you observe in the employee ID column, currently we are having 6 rows with the data with the employee ID values, and the seventh row which is having the null. There we don't have any employee ID that is defined in the employee table, right? But as I said, if you do the count on the particular column name, which is employee ID, always it will not calculate the null values that is present in that particular column. in this case, six values will be there. With six values are there in this particular employee ID column, and one null value is there. When I give a count star, it will give you the null calculations also as the count, wherein it gave you output as 7. But if you mention the particular employee ID column, then when it is calculating the count of records, it excludes the value which is present as a null in that particular column, and it will give you the result set count only which is having the value in that particular column. So let's try out. As per my understanding, this has to give you the 6 as the output, since one null value has to be excluded in the count of records, right? When you mention the employee ID as the specific column name, you can mention employee ID, you can mention first name, you can mention the last name, anything that is that you wanted to count on. If you mention it, if there are any null values in that particular column, it excludes that count and it gives the only the values that are present and the and corresponding count of those rows. That's how the calculation goes. Let's try out. See here, total 7 rows that got displayed in that particular table which I created. Now it is when you run the select count star, it gave you 7. When you run the same select count of employee ID from the table, it gave you 6, because it excluded the null value count in that particular column. So you need to understand, you can use this based on your, I mean, whenever the coding comes into the picture for you guys, you need to understand and code based on the behavior of the SQL server and the syntaxes of it. So you can use based on your requirements, but you need to know these are the functionalities, these are the functionality that are available in the SQL server basically. So now let's move ahead. That is about the count part of it, and now we're going to learn about average, min, max, and sum. All these are kind of aggregate functions which are there in the SQL server, which are helpful for us to get the average of the current particular column, or what is the maximum value that is present in the column, or minimum value that is present in the table, and then the sum of those particular column. So let's understand, there is a table called emp table which I already showed you. So if I want to calculate the average salary of this particular employee or employee set, right? So whenever I put the average of salary column, what it does is it sum it up, 25,000, 1,000, 19,800, whatever it is, right? All these will be sum it up and divided by 7 is the average calculation that goes in SQL server. As I said, average is the built-in function, which is built-in aggregate function which has been provided by SQL server. If I do select average of salary, that means I'm asking SQL server to do the average of salary column data that is present in the employee table. Do give me the average value in the salary column. That's the ask of this particular query. When I ask that particular query, you have to write a query such as select average of, mention the column name that you want to get the average out of it, and from the table name that if you mention, then it will give you the average of salary. Let's try it out. See here, it gave, if you basically sum it up divided by 7, sorry 6, it will give you the, because it will exclude the null value, as I said. Basically sum it up all these things and divided by 6, it will give you the 13753 average value. Similarly, as I said, count star will be give, count star will give 7, employee ID will give 6. I already showed you, okay, and explained you as well. Now if you see the particular table, emp table, right? If you see the salary, 25,000, 1,000, 19,800, 36,300, 1220, 200, all these salaries are present. But my requirement is I want to find out what is the maximum salary that is present in the employee table. I want to know basically who is getting the maximum salary in the entire employee table or employer entire organization. If that is my requirement, I need to write a built-in function select max of salary column, which I want to get the salary, max salary from employee table, so that you will be able to find out which is the maximum salary that is present in the salary column. If you observe, with the help of max, I'm able to find it out 36,300. It is a manually I'm seeing it, but if I blindly write a query such as select max of salary from EMPTP table, then it will fetch you directly the maximum salary that is present in the table. That is nothing but 36,300. Is exactly the vice versa of this is the minimum salary. If at all I want to find out what is the minimum salary that is present in the employee table, who is getting my very less salary in my entire organization, if that is my requirement, then I have to write a aggregate functions to find out what is my minimum salary that is present in the organization. That is select min of salary from EMPTP, then it will give you the minimum salary employee who is getting the very less salary. If you observe, right, the salary which is there, this is the salary column. When I run the min select min of salary from table name, it gave you the minimum salary which is present in the table, that is 200. When I run the select max of salary from the table, then it gave you the max salary which is 36,300. So you need to understand there is an aggregate function which is available to find out the minimum and maximum salaries that are present, or minimum or maximum values that are present in the table and the column. Similar case, I want to find out what is my net salary that is going into the organization. How much net salary that is giving into the organization to the all the employees. Then I have to get it the entire sum of the salary that is present in the entire table itself, right? So basically that's how you need to write is, I want to know entire set of a salary that is giving in the organization. Then I need to find out there is a aggregate function which is available in SQL Server, that is called sum will help you to sum it up all these salary values and give it in one shot. So that is where the sum will comes into the picture. So if I run the query select sum of salary from EMPTP, it will get you the sum of the salary as well. So if you observe, this is the salary column, this is the minimum salary, this is the maximum salary, and this is the last one is the sum of salary. You can alias it for your naming convention. What you can do is, as you can give the in the, if you observe, right, in the top no column name it is displaying, but if you want to display some column name, you can display just that some mn okay, let's do that, mn sal, okay. And similarly for maximum salary, mx sal, right. And for sum of salary as sm sal. If I give like this, it will give you the column names for the aliasing part of it. It is not the actual column name, but it does the aliasing and it gives the some column names as well. See here, employed, this is the salary column. MN sal, it is displayed as the minimum salary. MX sal, it is displayed as the maximum salary. And similar case with the sum of the salary, which is displayed as the SM sal, right? So that's how we are able to achieve this with the aggregate functions. Now in an entire set, the one more just tweaking part of that is, I want to see if you run this particular thing, right? So now I said you depart. Now I just in a blind manner in the one shot I got it as a holistic data as the min, max, and some of the data, right? But I want to see, so there are multiple departments employees that are present. 60 department ID is having two employees. 65 is having sorry, 65 is having a three employees, and 66 is having the one employee. That means you think it in a such a way that CS department is having two employees, electronics department is having three employees, and IS department 66 is having one employee. But I want to see what are my minimum salary in the department wise, and what is my maximum salary department wise, what is my sum of salary department wise, like that, what is my count of employees on the department wise. That means example, department ID 60, how much, what is the maximum salary in the department ID 60. If that is my requirement, out of that 60 is having two employee salaries, one is 25,000 and 1,000. Out of that minimum salary is 1,000, maximum salary is 25,000. and the sum of the salary of the department ID 60 is 26,000. Like this, it has to display me the department wise what is my minimum salary, maximum salary, and the sum of salary in a one shot, in one query. So then you have to write the aggregate functions such as select whatever the, I mean, based on what particular column, based on what data that you want to aggregate the data of the salary. That is the key point for you to the group the data, right? So in this case, I my requirement is to group the data or display the group of data based on department wise. That in that case, my aggregation should happen on department, my grouping should happen on department ID. You are categorizing the data, or you are aggregating the data based on the department wise. Then the group by clause, there is a clause called group by in the SQL server. Whatever the particular column which you want to do the categorization, where you want to do the categorization wise data that you want to fetch, then that is what the column which you have to use in the group by class, right? So select department ID. You are not doing any aggregation on this particular column, but you have to use it in select class in order to pass that in group by class. Okay, and then sum of the salary as the department salary you want to display, and average of the salary where you want to display as the average of the salary, and minimum of the salary in the particular department wise, and maximum of the salary and the maximum department wise from table name, group by department id. If you do like this, it will display you the department id, and under that department id what is my sum of salary, under that particular department id department wise what is my average salary, department wise what is my minimum salary, department wise what is my maximum salary. It will display like that. Let's try it out. See, currently, as I said, 60 is the department ID, which is having the 25,000 as the sum of the salary. If you see, right, 60, the sum of salary, 26,000, right? And average salary, 26,000 divided by 2, that is nothing but 13,000. And minimum salary 1000 is the minimum salary. What is my maximum salary? 25,000 is the maximum salary. So distinct department wise it categorized, and it gave you the sum of salary, maximum salary, average salary, minimum salary, maximum salary. All these aggregates are done in a single query, right? So department wise you are able to fetch it out. What is my maximum salary? Similarly, it aggregated for 65. 65 is having three departments employees, wherein it it sum up the all the three employees data, and also average it out, and also minimum salary out of those three employees. If you observe it, 220, 200, and another one person 65 is having 19,800. Out of that, 200 is the small minimum salary which is displayed here, maximum is 19,800 which is displayed here as a maximum salary, and average is displayed as a 6,740. Similarly, for 66 department id, there was only one person who is there in that 66th department id, and min and max both are same for that, and sum is also same for that, because he is a only one employee id that is present. So you guys understood what are the different aggregate functions, what are how you can calculate the aggregate data on the category wise also. So this is all about today. What and all the things that you covered today, we covered what how you can do the alter on the ddls, and what are the temporary tables, global temporary table and local temporary tables, and what are my aggregate functions that are available in sql server: count, min, max, average, and sum, all these things, and also department wise how you can fetch it out, all these together as a single query. All these things today we learned. Tomorrow we will learn few more date functions, few more functions that are present in the sql server. So there are a lot of built-in functions that are available. We will go through each and everything, but today we will stop it here till the aggregate functions. Any questions from anyone?
No, sir.
If not, we are good to end the session. Thank you. Thank you for all.